Welcome to episode 2 of How to Make Insoles. Today we are going to unwrap these, which we wrapped up in the last episode. It's been a few days now, so everything is nice and dry. You don't want to do it too soon when there's still any moisture in the leather, because it'll kind of just pop back to its original shape. So these are nice and dry. And we can finish shaping them in to the bottom of the last and then start making our marks for where we want the channel to be in the Holdfast. And then these things will be ready to put the uppers on and put welts on, but those will be future episodes. For now, we're going to trim in the excess to the edge of the last, make sure we get a nice profile in through the arch, and work on our Holdfast. All right. I find that the easiest way for me to trim these is to pop these nails out that we put in last episode and mark, like then you can see where the indent is. I'll show you here. So you can see exactly where the edge of the last is here, and then we'll use some judgment to choose a nice curve for the inside of his arch. But you can see you've already got a really nice form doing the wet lasting, and then it holds that form. It's not just a noodle once it's dried out. So now I will go over to the grinder and trim in to that. Nice to tie in from the last point at the ball where you can really see the definition of the last to the start of the heel plate right there. And then you're just looking for a nice natural kind of insole shape. You can really use your customer's footprint here as well to kind of really see where their pressure point is. Most people with a normal arch don't need this support here, and you're better off to have this trimmed out, and then that will allow the upper to wrap in nicely to the bottom of the insole, and then that will provide the support that we're looking for in the fit here. Yeah, a good idea of a normal human footprint, maybe not normal, what's normal footprint, is something like this. You see all the pressure is on the outside of the foot and coming over there. So we're really looking to imitate that shape with our insole. All right, I'll go trim this in and bring it back and show you the comparison, and then we will copy 1 to 2. All right, so you don't want to go too far too fast. Sometimes this edge can disappear on you. And so you really want to make sure that as you're going on your trimmer, you're checking against the last to make sure everything is where you want it to be. And when you see things like, it should be very flush, you know? You want to check your heel position, make sure that's exactly where it is while you're relating the rest of it. And then something important to do is to take this edge off with a groover or a lip knife. Sharp one is best. Sometimes that edge can be deceiving about, you think you're over or you need to trim more, but that edge actually gets rolled up. And so making sure you take that lip off the top there, like I just did, will enable you to get a good look at how this is actually fitting. And you want to get a really top-down perspective on it. So you can still see it's proud a little bit here and here. And then on the side of the heel, we can still trim a little bit more. So I'll do that and I'll be back to test again. All right, so we have insole number 1 trimmed in nicely. Happy with the arch profile, rolls nicely between the tip of the heel plate to the ball of the foot. Trimmed off the high ridge around the edge. You want to kind of dull that, because as people wear their boots, this will get wet with sweat, and then as it dries, that edge can curl up and become sharp. So you want to make sure you take that down a bit. You'll see some people use just a knife to trim in their lasts, the insoles rather. I find that I prefer to take it down on the sander. I can get a I can get close to it rather than digging in with the knife and cutting into the last. Yeah, maybe I just need more practice with the knife, but that's what I found out works. All right, so now I'm going to use some calipers. And we'll make sure that the profile through the waist is the same, 52.75 millimeters. And then we'll just kind of keep comparing as we go. It's really important that these become symmetrical to make two boots that feel the same. You want the length to be the same, the width to be the same, the arch and profile, everything needs to be symmetrical. And that's one of the cool parts about making boots, is that is the objective here, is to make the left and the right feel the same, at least in a standard boot. When you have people that have two different feet, like completely different, where you're actually designing something specific, you might end up modifying the left or the right to suit, but really important here that we create something uniform. Can also use a contour gauge. And then that will help us match this profile. So you just want to make sure that you're getting it at the exact right spot. When you transfer, this shape will go over to there like that. So I'm going to keep this right way up. You flip it to match that, to match the left, turn it over. It's important not to helicopter this, turn it around, get the wrong shape. So I'll rough this in. First one's easier because you're making that one the way you want it. The second one can be a little trickier because you need to do what you did the first time again. And if this is the wrong shape, the whole boot will feel different, the whole boot will look different. Yeah, all right, back to the grinder. We now have two insoles that match pretty dang perfectly. And you know, what's most important is that you don't take off too much material too quickly, because you can't put it back. And so you want these to fit just right. Make sure that when you are testing your insole that you're pushing up in the arch so that everything is tight all the way through. And so one of the reasons I like to take the insole off when I'm shaping is because it's really challenging to get the inside of the arch cut in properly with a knife, and then it's a real challenge again to make sure you do the same thing to the opposite insole. But so here we have a really nice profile that sits well on the last, and the left is the same. You want to have your last close to you when you're trimming in. And here I can see actually on this one, I want to go back to the grinder and trim a little bit more off the heel. It's really important to focus on the toe and the heel of the boot. Well, maybe I'm actually okay. But you want to make sure that the insole at the heel really rolls into the last properly, and that will prevent you from having a weird square edge on your heel. You want everything to roll over really well and shape into the heel nicely. Anything that's sticking out over the edge of the last will push its way out when you're lasting, and then you'll be left with this edge of material that you can see on the upper, and that's not what we're after. We want a nice smooth transition. I do prefer at the arch though to leave it square, because you want enough material that you can work with when you're inseaming. The Holdfast has to really, you need that material for sewing. If you're going to sew all the way to the heel like we are on these, this is going to be a 270 degree welt. A lot of cowboy boots will just be a 180 degree welt, which will end here somewhere. But I do a 270 degree welt on mine. All right.